We'll just leave, seeing how it's just us, might as well just leave the audio on, right?
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, that's fine with me. And then I feel like somebody's actually there. If you guys sign off, I wouldn't even know. I'm sitting here talking to myself for a while. So, okay. So, oops, we went backwards. Let me go the other way here. All right. So this is, so you guys, when you were in the other class, did we talk about writing ads?
I don't remember it.
Did you remember watching Ellen DeGeneres?
No.
A video? Okay.
Maybe we didn't see it.
Okay, then I couldn't remember because one of my classes ended a little bit differently than the other one because I had some interruptions. I had a lot of people talking, and so it kind of set us back, and I didn't want to keep it going too long. So I wanted to make sure you hadn't already seen it. But so this one, we're going to start out talking about how to write really good ads and stuff. And I started it with this little video because I thought it was funny. So listen to what she says about these ads that they found and read. You have to pay attention to them. It's pretty funny. Hopefully you guys can hear it.
These are real listings of houses. This is a listing. This sounds promising. It says right here, cute home in the historic center. Let's see this cute home. Oh, honey, I love it. Mold is adorable. Cute home in historic center. All right, this is, here's another one. This is a rental sign outside the Palm Tower. It says they have central air, security parking, a wet bar, and a large walk-in closet. Is my refrigerator running? No, but my closet's walking. Here's another one that let's just read it together, okay? We started off, it says spacious 1,500 square foot home with large lot, family living room, fireplace, and something.
Oh my gosh.
Did you? Yeah.
A huge deck. I think they meant a huge deck.
Yes, they did.
And the E and the I are nowhere near each other on the keyboard.
You know,
it's so literal. It's just wow.
I'm a smart aleck from the word hello, my name is.
Well, you know, it just goes to prove you have to proofread before you print things, you know.
Yes.
Because I've read things before too that I'm like, what in the world does that mean? I don't think that's what they meant to say. But anyway, so, you know, when we did class 1, I talked about the for sale by owner. I don't know if you remember, that was in Roy, and they had wrote, you know, their whole description and everything. And that's the one that we did the market analysis and stuff on. This is kind of that same description. But the first one is the agent's description that they had on the MLS when they had it listed. And so you can see the difference between the agent's description and the homeowner's description. So the one thing that's nice about a homeowner's description is they always describe all the things that they love so much about the house and that they're really proud of. And those are the things that sometimes we overlook. So I've always thought it was a really good idea to ask them, you know, what are the things that you would want to list? What are the things that's really important to you? What drew you to this home and made you like it so much? Oh, we got somebody joining us.
My picture isn't there.
I know, because I've slid it off the screen.
Okay.
So that we can see more of it.
I was going to say, I can't see.
It's a little dark.
Let me see here. Oh, we got Anna on there. Okay, cool. Hi, Anna.
Is that better?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
No, more right.
But anyway, I think it's really important to make sure that when you put a description in there, if you can, you know, really make sure you describe the property and not the people that are going to be living in it or might be living around it or whatever. Of course, that'll always save you on fair housing. But I really like the fact that on here, they've got a lot of things that aren't the obvious. So if you've noticed, like a lot of times real estate agents will put on the MLS, they'll, you know, put how many bedrooms and bathrooms and, you know, all that right on the description at the beginning, which is fine, except for that's already kind of listed anyway when they're pulling it up. But I think it's important to make sure that when you're writing these, you make them really stand out. Because when people are looking at these and the agents are handing them out, they're given the MLS sheets and stuff like that. I think that that's what makes homes stand out a lot more than just a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage. Inspiring listings, if you can make them do a double take, make it stick out like a sore thumb. I just think that that's the things you were saying. You've got that kind of funny sense of humor and, or whatever. I'm the same way. So I like to add things to mine that kind of are a little bit quirky maybe, but like for instance, this one says, "Are you kidding me? 12 acres of wooded land for how much?" Basically get to the point. What is it that they're looking at? And I think that that's the best way to make sure that you're attracting the buyers. And then the property's narrative, the description of features. And I was going to tell you guys, if you guys want all of the handouts that go with this, basically I can make it smaller. If you're interested in any of this information, just to kind of help you, if you want to write up ads and stuff like that, if it would help you, let me know and I can send the handouts to you. They're kind of lengthy, but you don't necessarily have to print them off, but at least you could have them in front of you. So
Sure, we'd love to have.
okay, all right. I'll just send it to you when we're done, and then you'll have it for the next class too. The one thing with these classes versus my CE classes is I know who's going to be coming to the CE classes, so I send everything out ahead of time for the handouts. But for these classes, I have to wait to see who's going to show up before. I don't want to just send everything out. So a lot of times they don't come into the classes because they think they can just read through it, and that doesn't necessarily always help. So, but anyway, so this is just a good idea to kind of give you a description, how to do the feature properties and things like that, the inspiring and compelling description. And then promotions, if you want to do any promotions, the goal is to get it sold, and get it sold fast, but offering some promotions sometimes really does help, especially when the market's kind of slowed down a little bit. You guys have just been in, I'm not sure about Anna. Anna, how long have you been in business?
I've been 3 years.
3 years. Okay. So you guys, you've been in it long enough to see that, it's been going really well. The last 3 or 4 years has just been, like hotcakes. It's been great. So the one thing you guys haven't had to go through yet is those slow times when things kind of take a dive. So that when you get listings, you're getting them on the market. Sometimes they're sitting for 3 or 4 months and you're not getting any showings or just very minimal or no offers. That's something that a lot of agents that are newer to the business are going to struggle with, because it doesn't come as fast as what it has. So people have been working with a lot of buyers and stuff and just been writing offers and getting things under contract really quickly and getting them sold. That's great. But when it comes down to it, you really have to get good at looking towards the future and deciding, okay, if I start now and it doesn't happen for 4 or 5 months, how do I keep that going? And so sometimes you do have to offer some promotions and things like that. Seller financing could be some options that are going to be coming up. Purchase rent to owns. I think probably that this market, the way that things are going, I'm hoping that it bounces back fairly quickly, but it sounds like there's probably going to be a lot of people that are going to get behind on house payments if they don't get back to work soon, which can cause a lot of foreclosures and bankruptcies and short sales and stuff like that. So, but don't be discouraged, because believe me, I've had some of my best years when the market was like that. So I had to work a little harder, but I did have some of my better years. So, and it really does filter out a lot of agents. I know it sounds horrible, but a lot of times, you'll see it go from 2,200 members like we have now at the NWAOR, and you'll see it go down to like 1,000. I mean, it's just crazy how it changes. Anyway, call to action, sense of urgency. This house is still available, so, act now, or, why are you still reading this? Call now. I think that things like that really stand out a lot. And I think that, sometimes you don't want to exaggerate too much, but you know what, to give that urgency and stuff to people, I think that it's better than it being boring. So, of course, fair housing, like I was just talking about, just make sure that you describe the property and not the people. if you're not sure on fair housing, on the wording and things that you can use, when you go on the MLS, you can see when you're putting in remarks. If you guys, have you guys had many listings? I mean, you haven't been in the business that long, I know, but I know that listings have been really hard to get in the past couple of years. So no listings.
We've had one listing on land. That's all we've been able to list. So
Okay. All right. So, you know, I've always said if you don't list, you don't last. And honestly, that's really true. So I would really start to focus on that. Buyers are great. So if they come along, that's kind of the quicker close. But if you can get used to the fact that you're going to work with listings and start getting really good at that, now's a good time to where it's slow. Do you guys, I don't know if you own a home. I'm sure you, if not, you own somebody that owns a home. Go in and practice doing some market analysis on some homes of either yours and friends or family, just to practice. And then also go into the MLS and start doing a listing on there, create a new listing. And it won't go on as a listing, but you can actually practice on there. So you can go through and start filling out the forms. It's a really good way for you to get to know the forms really well. So if you do get a listing, you're aware, because when you don't do them all the time, there's so much information in there. And so if you happen to get a listing, it's all you can do just to get the documents and the contracts that you have to get, you know, across to them. But to have to fill out the MLS sheets and stuff like that, it's a lot of work, and it takes a lot. So, and the market analysis, if you guys, you know, I would get with Dawn, or you're welcome to, you know, call me, whatever. But, and I don't even mind doing another class where we just, even if it's a Zoom like this, because you guys aren't in this area, if you wanted to do one, we could set one up where we went step by step by step. I would probably limit those classes to probably less, like 10 people or less though, because I found that when I get too many people, I just, they ask too many questions, or everybody gets kind of out on, you know, they go off course, and it's hard to get them back on to course. But that probably is the most important part of listings, is really getting to know the forms. So if you guys would like that, you know, let me know, and we can get any kind of Zoom or whatever set up.
yeah, it sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, it is. And you know what, it's kind of weird because I'm not used to this whole talking to myself in a computer thing, but you know, I like it when I used to be able to sit down with my agents, and we would sit down. So I would do at least once a week where we would have whoever was interested in learning how to, you know, get listings, how to talk to sellers and stuff. They would come in and we would sit down, and we'd have a phone, an actual phone sitting in the middle of the table, and we would pull up lists. Everybody would take turns pulling up like a KSL.com for sale by owner or expired or whatever it was. And for about the first 3 or 4 calls, I would get on the phone and they would listen, and I'd put on speaker so they could hear me, and I would do the call so that they could see what I would say, how I would respond, you know, and things like that. And it's weird, and it's kind of, you know, for me, it makes me nervous, but it seemed to be really helpful for the agents. It got them past that point of being scared, because they were just like, oh my gosh, what do I do if someone calls, or what do I do if somebody does say, yeah, I want to, you know, have you come over for a listing appointment. So anyway, yeah, those, I'm always happy to do those. I actually enjoy doing that with the agents. So these are just some words with fair housing that I wanted to point out, because if you notice, if you ever look through the MLS, that's another thing you can do is, while this downtime's here, start going through the MLS and look at different agents of what they say, what they write, you know, all of those things. It's really interesting to read what's in there, because there's a lot of them that have a lot of wording that shouldn't be in there. But for instance, this one, a 2-bedroom executive home, believe it or not, that's not a phrase that would be allowed. Exclusive neighborhood would be another kind of saying, you know what, these are the type of people that can live here. Walking distance to church, that's assuming that people want to go to the church that's within walking distance. And so active adult living at its finest, those are the kind of things people get in trouble for, because what if they're not an active adult, but that's where they want to live? So be really just, you know, be aware that that's there. Perfect environment, empty nesters, quiet, private neighborhood. I mean, you don't know that it's a private neighborhood, and you don't really want to say it's private because it's public. So just things like that you'll notice people do that a lot. I thought this was kind of funny when I put this together. This lady, did you sell your house yet? No, after reading the real estate agent's description of it, we decided it was just the place we're looking for. So, that's the kind of ad you want to write. So, are you guys, I'm sure you've been in the library for iPro and you've seen all the different options that they have as far as like working with sellers, working with buyers and stuff like that.
Yeah, we've seen it.
Yeah, there's a lot of good information in there. I mean, some of it will work for you, some of it won't. It's kind of nice because it's already prepared. So if there's things that you want to do, but you can see that I've got the arrow and basically it's pointed to working with sellers. If you go into there and you go into the listing appointment graphic version, you can pull up all of these different things that you can download and use. So there's the listing, understanding the process, key selling factors, all of those kind of things are really nice to put together. And you basically have your listing presentation right there in front of you. So don't reinvent the wheel if you don't have to. I've done that way too much. So unfortunately, but it was nice. I learned it really well. And of course I knew it really, by heart by the time I was done because I put it together, but it does take up a lot of time. So let's talk about cold calling versus warm calling. Nobody wants to cold call. I don't like cold calls. I don't like to call them that because it makes me feel cold. So I changed to warm calling because I have always felt like when you call somebody, the thing that you want to really make sure that you're doing is you're not just calling them to sell something. I think you have to really concentrate on building relationships. And I know a lot of agents that have been in the business a long time, and I'm not going to say they're not good agents, but I do know that there's quite a few that I've met and I've been around that they build it. It's all transactional. I mean, everything they do is based on numbers. It's get them in, get them out, get the next one. That's what they do. And I just have noticed that they never have the same repeat customers because they don't build relationships with them. It's not about that for them. And that's sad. I think that they're missing the boat, but I guess everybody does things their own way. But, so if you want to focus on relationship building, ask to view their home first. During the appointment, make a list of noticeable things that might be an issue that you might see. So you guys haven't done, many of these. And so I'm just going to tell you some things that you'll want to look for. You don't have to be a professional home inspector. But if you go into somebody's home and you go up to the door and you see that there's peeling paint around the outside, anywhere on the outside, and even if it's a home that's newer than 78, that still is going to be an issue if they go FHA, because the FHA appraiser is still going to require that it gets fixed regardless. So when you're walking through it, it's kind of important. I always have a pen and a paper, and I just kind of start doing my little chicken scratch. And as I walk through each room, I write down details of things that I see that I think are really cool or important or extras. But I will make a little list and just, like peeling paint or missing railing if there's more than 3 steps. If it's missing railing, they got to have a railing up. Obvious safety issues, if there's, obviously if there's carpet that's got big holes in it, or you've got walls that have big holes in it, anything like that that would help them to be able to sell the home better, just make note of it and don't mention it at the time. Just walk through. Oh, sorry. Whoops, I bumped something. Just, make note of it so you can have a conversation about it later. Build trust with them and ask them their concerns, what they are, and give safety advice. And then if you guys would work on pulling up the documents I just showed you in the library and put together some type of a presentation. I have some things that I'm more than happy to share with you guys if you want to add them to them or whatever, but I would put together a for sale by owner packet. And I don't think I showed you guys this before, right? In the last 2 trainings.
I don't remember it, no, but if you'd like to share.
Okay. Okay. So this is one that I had put together. So when I had my brokerage before, I got together with a bunch of vendors and said, you know what, if we become synergy partners and I will advertise for you and you advertise for me. So basically business to business. If you guys will give me, you know, your business cards, I'll get these books, I'm going to have them made. But if you guys will pay me $3 for a spot to put it in each book or whatever, we work that out. I mean, some of them I think paid $1 for each book. So maybe $25 or $50 or something for 50 books. We put these together, and so I went and I had them all made, and it says Compliments of Synergy Partners and Real Estate Concepts. That was the name of my company. And so we put these together, and then they're just a binder. And so what I did is in the very front, I had business cards and stuff of everybody within the book that I could show them. But the first page always started off with my mission statement. And so the mission statement was what our company believed in and what we stood for. And iPro has a lot of really neat things that they have in there already. So this is another thing, and you'll see this on the PowerPoint here in a minute, but this is a for sale by owner brochure that I did up. I mean, it's not folded obviously, but this is the front or the inside of it, and then on the other side it had the company name and everything. But basically it is special offers for new clients only, you know, basically anything you want to offer here. I used to say list by, you know, May 30th and receive 1% off, you know, get a listing for 5% or $500 towards, you know, a gift card or whatever it happens to be that you wanted to do. Anyway, it says for sale by owner, now what? So many questions, and it asks, you know, all these things. What do we do now? And this says, how can I help? Basically, it just says, this is what I'm going to supply for you. What it is it's this book. And so when I have this little book, this is kind of old. You can see me and my dog on there. I made this so that I was just like everybody else. I wasn't like, you know, I guess it depends on where you're going. If you're on a $700,000 home, obviously, you know, you want it to look much more professional. But I did this because this is who I am. You know, I had a hat on, I had my dog with me. I want them to know that I'm a regular person too. Anyway, this is basically the seller information sheets and everything that I'm going to show you on these slides that we go through throughout this training. So I just wanted you to see that that's what I did with it. I have them, they're in these little plastic sheets so they stay nice. So what I would do is I would leave this with them and say, these are things that I want you to, you know, take a look at. I know you're trying to sell your home on your own, but I don't want you to have any surprises. Here is a copy of a for sale by owner commission agreement, and I put draft on there so that they couldn't just use it because I didn't want to have any liability for letting somebody use forms that wasn't licensed. And then I gave them a copy of the seller disclosure, same thing, I would put draft across here so that they were aware of what they were going to have to fill out. So what I was doing is trying to kind of hope that they go through this so that they can see for themselves, so I don't have so much explaining to do. But on the other hand, I wanted them to be able to see that there's a lot involved too. I think I even have a copy before of a listing agreement in there, just, you know, all of the forms that they would need to know about lead-based paint disclosure, all that kind of stuff. But I just wanted to show you that so that you have an idea that if you put together a packet like that, when you're building trust, of course, you want to give them something of value. So if you can leave something with them that's really going to help them, plus it also gives you a reason to come back. So tell them, hey, you know what, take a look at it, keep it for a couple of days, and then, you know, make any notes. If you have any questions or anything, any concerns, write it down, and when I come back, we can go over it. So that was kind of my way of getting in the door and then be able to come back. So, so then when you're focusing on building the relationships and you've already went through and you're during the appointment, you're of course making noticeable notes of everything, you're building that trust. There's another thing that you can help it too, and a lot of times people don't think about this, but you can buy open house signs, like the really cheap and expensive ones that for sale by owners buy to do open houses. And if you happen to go through a for sale by owner's home that is doing on their own and they mention, you know, or you could ask them, are you planning on doing any open houses or anything? And well, yeah, we were thinking about it. That's a great time to start giving them safety advice. And we'll talk about that in a minute, of why that's so important and what you can include in the packet. And then, you know, you could say to them, well, you know what, I've actually got some extra signs that, you know, directional signs, because it's a good idea to put them down on the corners and stuff. Would you want to borrow them? I can drop them out to you. Little things like that go so far. And it just lets them know that you're about more than just trying to list their home. And that referring them to lenders, so that if they get a potential buyer, they can make sure that the buyer is qualified if they're not already. Title company information, they, you know, talk to them about who are you going to use for title, because a lot of times they don't even know what that is, or, you know, where to go find that. Again, give something of value. You can give them the draft, like I said, of the for sale by owner commission agreement. Give them some information for moving companies. Offer to do a market analysis, and even maybe a seller's net sheet, and we'll go over that too. Sellers, honestly, they're not really ready most of the time to list, if they're gonna list, until like the 5th or 6th contact. So make sure that if you say, I'm gonna get back with you on Tuesday, or I'll stop by in a couple days, make sure you do that. Because if you don't, somebody else will. It's just crazy. I don't know if sometimes they just get tired of getting bombarded by people, and so they just finally give in and they just go with, you know, the 5th or 6th person that comes along. But typically they, you know, that's what it comes down to, is about the 5th or 6th contact that gets a hold of them. So you want to make sure you're that one. And another thing is when you're talking to them, ask them where they're going. You know, maybe they want to sell their home by themselves because they don't have enough equity, or maybe, you know, you never know the situation. But a lot of people forget to ask, you know what, well, where are you moving to? Or are you already looking at homes? Are you staying in the area? You could possibly just sell them a home too if they don't end up listing. So, and if not, they, you know, ask them towards the end, after you've built that relationship with them, ask them if they know of anybody that, you know, is thinking about buying or selling that you can maybe help out. And then always send a thank you card immediately after you make contact. If you get a hold of them, so typically what I would do is I would call the for sale by owner. Hi, this is Cindy with iPro. How are you doing? You know, I just wondering, I seen that you've got your home for sale by owner, and I have, you know, a lot of buyers through our office that we're always looking for homes for them. You know, it's obviously been a different type of a market where sometimes there's a lot of homes, sometimes there's not many on the market, but I want to give them every possibility to be able to see anything out there. Is there a time I could stop by and just take a look at your home and walk through it, so that I have an idea of what it, you know, the home is like? And if I have somebody that I know is looking for something like that I could bring them by, would that be okay with you? Most of the time they say yes. Most of the time they might say, yeah, but I'm not planning on listing. And I always say, oh no, I wasn't trying to list your home. I'm trying to look for, you know, and help my buyers, because we do work with a lot of buyers. It shuts that down immediately, and you don't get that resistance from them. That really does help a lot. So when you're helping these for sale by owners, this is the brochure. This is another one. It's not in that book, but it's a different one that I had made up. Again, it's thinking of selling. Here's how I can help. At your request, I would like to provide you with a free seller's guide, which is, you know, similar to what I just showed you. A market analysis, you know, and on and on and on. This is just something that I had what I called a flat rate fee. But it's not a discount brokerage fee. Don't confuse the two. What it is basically I would give them a list, and I had homes where houses up to 250 or 300,000. They would pay a little bit less on the listing side, but they would still pay 3% to the buyer's agent. And then as the price went up, it kind of almost flattened out. So people that had a little bit more expensive home didn't have to pay that huge amount of commission. And so it was really awesome. I had a lot of really good feedback from it. And, you know, honestly, my opinion was I was doing it on my end, not taking it away from the buyer's side. And so I just felt like it was something I could do to give back and help people sell their home. And either way, I was going to make money. So I wasn't too concerned about if it was, you know, a difference of 1% or whatever it might happen to be. But and then of course my dog was my partner. I always had him in all my advertising. So I'm kind of bummed I don't have that anymore. I'll probably still add it into my own personal stuff if I do some deals here and there, but I just kind of have a feeling I'm not going to be able to do a lot of that. I'm pretty busy with other things. But so on this one other side, it says, you know, free. What's the catch? It's simple. Refer me to your friends and family. Allow me the opportunity to assist them with the purchase or sale of their home. And if you decide to list later, give me a shot. People love their animals. That's why I've got the little, you know, puppy paw on here. Refer a friend, receive a referral. Let's see. And that's not right. I don't know why that's on there. You don't give a referral fee. You don't do that. So I'm not sure how that got on there, but that's not how it should be worded. You can't tell somebody that if they refer somebody, you're going to pay them for it. You can just do that out of kindness if they happen to. That actually is supposed to say refer a friend, and the referral fee will go towards a charity of your choice. And then I had like different animal shelters and things like that, and different things they can put it towards. So I'm not really sure how that one got on there. Of course, on the bottom it says, my goal is to educate and protect buyers and sellers and their fur babies. So it's amazing how many people absolutely loved my advertising with my dog on there. They just love their babies. So, and then this is similar to the one that it is the one that I just showed you in the book. And like I said on here, you know, if you list before April 30th, 2020, mention this brochure, get a discounted brokerage fee of 5%, normally 6%, and save thousands of dollars. So you can do different types of things like that. So marketing your home or the property. So this is kind of a way to explain to them, and you could put this in a presentation if you wanted to. Because these are the kind of things that first time owners need to think about. It's not as cheap as what they think it's going to be. They've got to buy signs. They've got to, if they're going to do flyers, flyer boxes, you know, possibly professional photos, 360 tours and flyers, advertise their home on the internet, and then fair housing. The reason these are on here is I want people to look at that and go, oh, what is that? I didn't know we were going to have to do that, or I didn't know, you know, that was part of this. So it's to educate them, but it's also to kind of make them open their eyes a little bit to go, wow, there's a lot more to this than what we thought. So selling condition, this is another big thing that when you're talking with them, that you could talk to them about the condition of the property. So maybe if you had taken notes when you were there before and you're coming back, or maybe you're not going to go back, but you wanted to maybe write an email or a letter, send a card or something. I actually have a form that says, I haven't used it for a little while, but basically it talks about recommendations, you know, to the home, things that we could do to maybe, you know, improve the showing of the home. And if there was those kind of things that I had seen, I would write those down on there. It's kind of a checklist for them. So preparing your home, of course, these are the kind of things you talk to them about, the curb appeal and landscaping. If there's any painting or remodeling that they're working on, you know, it's best to get that finished before they start showing the house. Remodeling especially, because sometimes people do their own remodeling and they don't get permits that they need to get, and that can be a really big issue. So that's something else that you need to point out to them. If they're remodeling or adding on something, you need to say, did you happen to get permits for that? Because if it's not shown on the county record, a buyer will see that, you know, obviously it's not showing that it has 5 bedrooms, it only shows 3. That could be a situation they could run into where they're going to ask for anybody that worked on the home. They want to see that it was a legit contractor, that it was done correctly. Flooring that might need to be replaced or professionally cleaned. Again, if you see these things or you see anything that's an issue, or you want to give out more information with business cards, people that you can refer, this is a good time for, you know, your plumbers, heating and air, carpet installers, people that sell flooring, all that kind of stuff. It's a windows, somebody that cleans windows. Again, synergy partners, that's basically what I call them. So pricing their home is something that they need to be aware of, because a lot of times they don't even know. They're just going off of what they've seen their neighbors sold something for, or, you know, they've seen on KSL, they looked and, oh, well, these people are asking this much for their house. It's not nearly as nice as mine. However, you know, their house is a split entry and the home that they're looking at was a Rambler or something like that. So it's not comparing apples to apples. So Oh, whoops, sorry, I don't know why this is so touchy today. So getting a comparative market analysis, making sure if they want to get an appraisal, a lot of people will get an appraisal and it doesn't really make a difference because the buyer's still going to have to get an appraisal. So that's kind of money out of their pocket that they're going to be paying and they're not going to get back. Of course, they want to, ask them, decide what your asking price is going to be and what will your final price be. The one thing that for sell by owners never think about is they go into it and a lot of times they either discount it, lower it, thinking they're going to save money, or they say, or people will come in, well, we're not paying an agent, so we'll just reduce it a little bit. Or they charge the amount that we would charge on the MLS, and then somebody will come in and offer them 6% lower anyway, saying, well, there's no agents involved. The biggest mistake they make is they put a price out there that's too low, maybe, and then they decide to list it, and then you go list it at the price it should be, and then people do their research and they pull up that address and they see that there was an ad on that same home for sell by owner, and they were willing to take $350, and now we've got it at $375 or something like that. So just something for them to think about as well. If you guys have any questions or any comments, jump in. I feel like I'm doing blah all the time. Other expenses.
Just sitting here and learning.
I could.
No, we're sitting here learning from you. You're doing great.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Yes, good.
So extra expenses and costs that they don't think about as well is home warranties. Typically, most buyers always ask for a home warranty, basically because the agent tells them to. But you're talking anywhere between $400 and $500 for a home warranty. There are companies, quite a few of them, most of them will do this, that they will do it when you list the home, they put it up for sale, they do what they call a listing home warranty. They will cover that home with certain things and components of the home while it's listed. So if something happened to go out, for instance, you'd have to order it. So you would order the home warranty on the home as soon as you list it, and then let them know that this is just a listing warranty. I've had this happen before. So I used to do it on all my houses, no matter what. And so I had somebody that we put it on there, and then I can't remember if it was their heater or their air conditioner. I don't remember which one it was, but I just know that the furnace basically went out and it wasn't running anything. So what they did is we called them, and all they had them pay was what it would have cost for the home warranty. And so I think at that time it was $350 or something like that for the home warranty. They ended up paying for the $350, and the home warranty company ended up replacing the whole furnace because it couldn't be fixed. So it protected them. They thought I was amazing because that's something that they would have just had to pay for and fix on their own. So that's something to keep in mind. And then, of course, the home warranty goes in place. So what happens is when the buyer gets the home warranty, as soon as they close on the property, it's good for 1 year. But any home, even if it's something that, say it's your home or it's a friend's home and they've been in it for 5 years, 20 years, whatever, they can actually purchase those home warranties as well. So they can purchase it, and then every year, if you want to renew it, you just pay the fee again. So it's actually a good deal. Most of the time, my buyers that I've worked with, they'll get the free, the home warranty included with the home, and then when it comes up, the year comes up, they just pay and renew it again. So, and I've had a lot of them save a lot of money doing that. So you'll want to look into home warranty companies and find out who it is that you ask around who does the best job, who has the best coverage, things like that. Then you want to mention to them, if you do get an agent that brings a buyer, are you willing to pay a commission to that real estate agent? Because they're typically going to ask for anywhere from 2 to 3%. I mean, it just depends. And a lot of times they'll say, well, I didn't know that we would have to do that, because if we're not using them, why would we have to pay for it? It's a good time to understand that that's the time to talk to them and say, listen, typically a seller pays that. So when we list a home on the MLS, those numbers that we get, that pays for that. That's why we are able to sell homes for anywhere between 7 to 10% higher than for sell by owners do. It's just that much different. So And then are they aware of the for sale by owner commission agreement? And of course, that's something that I put in the book so that they can look it over. And then about talking to them about the buyer's closing costs. A lot of sellers will say, I'm not paying their costs. They can pay for their own costs. Well, it depends on how you look at it. So sellers will say, well, yeah, but I'm not paying for it. But are you really paying for it? Because it's really in the loan. The buyer's borrowing it. So most of the time, especially in the market the way it's been, the buyer may ask for closing costs, but if they're asking $350,000 for the home and they need $5,000 in closing costs to cover some of that for them, they typically will just raise the price up to $355,000. And so the seller's not paying for it. They're still netting the same amount of money. It's just the buyer's going to borrow it in their loan, so they're going to raise the price. That's really confusing to a lot of agents, especially when they don't do many deals, to get those numbers right, because even the lender sometimes will try to explain to you, well, this is what you need. You need to ask for this much in closing costs, and you need to ask for this and this and this. And it's like, oh my gosh, where do I ask for it? And where do I, how do I make sure that they're able to use it for what we want them to? So keep in mind too that buyer's closing costs, if you are representing a buyer, we have our fee that we charge in our office that we charge to the buyer and seller, the $150. That can be paid out of closing costs. So if you ask for closing costs to be paid by the seller, and there's that extra in there, extra money, you can put that down, and that's considered a closing cost. So it's not like they're coming out of their pocket with anything. A lot of times agents don't realize that what happens is if a buyer asks for, I'm just going to put a number out there, if they ask for $5,000 in closing costs to be paid by the seller, and their closing costs really only end up coming to like $4,800 or $4,700, that extra $300 goes back to the seller. So just so you're aware, if you have that and you're looking at numbers and you can see that they aren't using up the full amount of what you asked for in closing costs, you can actually say, well, then, you know what, if there's $300 left, let's do a home warranty. We'll add on and give some credit on their home warranty so that if they ever have a claim and they have to pay $60, they've already got a credit on there, or we can get the house rekeyed for them. So that's the problem a lot of times, is people don't know that there's all these little details that they can go in and fight for their buyer. And it is a lot of information, I know. I don't expect you guys to remember that, but if you get in a situation and you have a buyer and you're working with them and you think, gosh, we got closing costs, but what was it Cindy said about that? Just call me and say, what did you say about them closing costs again? And I'll walk you through it. So it's a lot to go through. Contracts and legalities, decide on title company that they want to use and the costs involved. We'll talk about a net sheet. I talk about a net sheet all the time. It's really crazy. I have done so many trainings, and it amazes me how many agents that have been in the business a long time never use a net sheet. And I'm just like, how in the world? It's kind of like a budget. I am a budgeter. I learned to do that when I was younger. And so, because of course I didn't know what I was doing, and then I ended up not having enough money to pay bills when I was young and stuff. So I learned how to do a budget, and I've just always stuck with that. But I'll talk to you a little bit more about that, but it's really important, those net sheets. And the crazy thing is most of the time it's the experienced agents that will call me or write me and say, can I get a copy of your net sheet? How come I've never known about this? So you can get numbers, and I'll show you how to get those, but get the required real estate contracts for their state. So of course it's Utah, you're working only in Utah, but recommend to them that if they don't know the contracts or where to get them and they don't understand them, that they need to hire an attorney that can walk them through that. Sometimes, a lot of times when people start hearing attorneys and they think, oh my gosh, really, we got to get that, then they'll start thinking, well, maybe paying a real estate agent's not such a bad thing after all. And then of course, provide the buyer with the required seller disclosures. And that's something that most for sale by owners don't know about. And then you want to talk to them about negotiating on an offer with a buyer, how important it is that they need to understand what the buyer's offer is and present counter offers if possible, if that's something that needs to be done, if they need to reject anything or respond on a counter offer. You know, got to tell them that there's earnest money that needs to be collected, and there's going to be time frames set for, you know, inspections and financing and all those things. And then they also need to understand that if they put under contract and they agree to a certain date to close, that they have to be out by that time. And that's something that a lot of people don't take into consideration. A lot of times buyers want to close much quicker than what sellers are thinking they're going to want to. So there's a lot of possible home inspections that they need to be aware of as well. This is just a breakdown. I'll be really honest. Most of this stuff that I put together for my agents. I put it so that you have a cheat sheet so that when you are sitting down with them, it's things that you need to know about and remember to mention, but you would not remember or even know to mention these things had it not been in front of you. And that's why I like these books. They're professional. Yes, it's a lot of information, but it really keeps you on track. So if you're talking and they're kind of going off on something else, and you come back, you can still be right where you were, and you can remember, oh yeah, I got to remember to finish telling them about that. But there are a lot of things that they don't think about, and termite inspections are a big deal. Radon gas is a big deal. That I've had a lot of homes that they've been doing radon testing, and there's actually, most houses have radon, at least a little tiny bit of it. It's just, you know, depends on where it's at. It's in the soil, but lead-based paint, or, you know, all of that kind of stuff, roof inspections, foundation inspections, all those kind of things. Title companies, again, they need to understand that they're going to have to, the buyer will put the earnest money somewhere, so they need to know where that needs to go. And then title search will be completed. They need to know that that's something they would have to order through the title company as soon as they get the home under contract. That's a good time to ask them if there's going to be any issues that they can think of that they would have with the home, as far as liens they, you know, might not know about, IRS taxes that maybe they've been paying on for a while or something. Typically, they usually won't file a claim against their property unless it gets over a certain amount, or if they start missing payments and not making their payments regularly, then they will put a lien against their home, because that puts them in first position on when it sells, even above the mortgage company. And so settlement and closing dates and times scheduled, you know, that has to be taken care of. There's just so much that they don't understand. This probably is the most important thing to me in real estate. And that is, whenever you're talking to for sale by owners, or you're talking to somebody that you're going to list their home, they don't think about safety, especially for sale by owner. So when you're talking to them, if you don't tell them anything else when you're building that relationship with them, say you go on the first appointment and they actually let you come over and walk through their home, and you're just like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to say. I'm so nervous. I don't want to say the wrong things. If you don't talk about anything else other than just their safety and how, you know, concerned you are, that you want to make sure that they understand that there's safety issues. Obviously right now it's a little bit different because, you know, we're not letting people in many homes. And if they are, you know, there's just a lot of precautions being taken and stuff like that. But when it gets back to a typical, you know, normalcy, hopefully, these are things that they need to think about. So prescription medication, people leave their medicine out all the time. Matter of fact, they put it in the bathroom, you know, they've got it in the vanity or whatever. It's just sitting out. Of course, they put it out so they don't forget to take it, right? But the problem is people, you know, that do drugs and sell drugs, they like to find these things because it's money in their pocket, especially right now with everybody going to be hurting so much. I mean, you guys know, I mean, it's just crazy. You might have sometimes when there's some people that are out of work, or you've got a big company or a big corporation that lays off a, you know, couple thousand people, and they're hurting, going through some tough times. But we have a whole world going through it right now. So, you know, it is a little bit scary. We have to, you know, think about these kind of things, because if things got worse, these are the kind of things people are going to try to break in and get in your home. So, and that's not to scare you. That's just to say, you know, be aware. People will leave out their passports, their financial information. They leave just all kinds of credit cards and stuff like that, just laying on the counter. they think that because it's in their bedroom and it's on their nightstand and that's jewelry and stuff like that, it's their bedroom. They don't think anything of it. But I have seen wedding rings sitting by the sink in the master bath. I've seen just the craziest things sitting out, and I think, oh my gosh, who's not telling these people that they need to put things away? Wallets, just there's all kinds of things. So, whoops. Computers are a big deal too. I mean, people leave their computers on. If you're talking to them, tell them, make sure they have a password protector on there so people can't get in and take their personal information. And, they can pick up anything small. So if there's phones, if there's any kind of, tablets or anything sitting around, just make them aware that, not everybody's honest. So this is the biggest deal right here. So you have, I'm just going to use an example. So you have husband and wife, and they've got a couple little kids at home. She's home during the day. They decide they're going to sell their home on their own. Husband's at work, and they put a for sale sign out in the yard, and a lot of times they even put open house. And so, you get somebody that walks up to their door, looks like a decent person. Hey, how are you doing? I drove by, I noticed that you got your home for sale. I was wondering, would it be a good time for me to come in and take a look at it? Do I need to make an appointment? Of course, they're excited, right? Oh no, you're fine. Come on in. Let me get the kids' stuff picked up. They walk in the door, and all of a sudden, little Tommy, or Max in this case, walks up and sees this man, and he shakes his hand. How are you, buddy? Or, plays with his toys, whatever he does. All of a sudden, the stranger isn't a stranger anymore to this kid. They're in their home. They're comfortable with them. They've seen them. They've talked to them. And a lot of people put their kids' names on their walls in their bedrooms. And so what happens, people walk in there, they see the name, they see the picture of the kid, they know what, who's Max, this is Max, and this is, Johnny or whoever. So now not only have they been in their home, and now they've talked to the kids, but now they know them by name. So, worst case scenario, God forbid something happened, but, they come back a couple days later, kids are out playing in the yard, mom's in the house doing her thing. And they walk up, hey, Max, how are you, buddy? You remember me? Yeah, I remember you. Bad things happen, and not everybody's nice. We know that. And so I think it's really important, if anything, tell them to be very careful with these kind of things. I've noticed on social media, if you ever notice, people will put their kids' pictures on there, these little kids' pictures, and then they put their names and they talk about them, and I just think, oh my gosh, how scary is that people know who their kids are and know their names and how old they are and where they go to school and all these things. And I don't think anybody thinks about it. They just, they don't think about those kind of things. You hate to, but, and as of right now, something that you want to let people know too, is, keep calm. Of course, we want to stay calm, and we want to let them reassure them that, everything's going to be okay. But if there are house showings going on, give your seller some tips. And this is just one of the things that I found. There's several things out there that you can give them. But this is something for the seller to think about. Open all the doors, sanitize knobs, and doorknobs before and after if somebody comes through. Leave the cabinet doors open, and so that people can just look in. They don't have to be touching things. Turn on the lights and lamps and switches so they don't have to walk through and do that. Keep the windows and doors and stuff. Let the air come through. And then, of course, if you're the buyer, refrain. You want to tell them, refrain from touching any surface while you're viewing. Use your own car, of course. Don't be driving them around. Wear booties or shoes, or take their shoes off before they even go inside. And then bring their own hand sanitizer, because right now it's really hard to find it. So if you don't have it available, we got to do something to protect people. So that's just some things to think about. So right now, I know that everyone's kind of thinking that because we're supposed to stay home and we're not supposed to be going out so that we can hopefully get this thing to go away, it doesn't mean that there are not buyers and there's not sellers out there. So something I would suggest to you guys to try. Okay, so the worst thing that can ever happen if you guys make a phone call, and and try to connect with a for sale by owner or an expired listing, the worst thing that can happen is they can hang up on you, or they might yell at you and say, we're not interested. You don't know them, doesn't matter, move on to the next, right? But it's a good opportunity to get good practice right now. What I would suggest is that if you're going to contact people, maybe give them a little bit of this information, ask them, you know, I want to make sure you're being careful. I know you have your home for sale by owner. Please be careful if you're letting people come into your home and take a look at it. I do have some information I could send to you if you're interested. It's just ways to keep everyone safe for you and the buyer. Would you be interested in me sending you some things? I can email it. I can, you know, mail it to you, whatever you want to do. The one thing you could do is you could tell them that you do have some safety information and things that you'd like to talk to them about, and ask them if you could possibly do a Zoom chat with them or FaceTime or whatever it is that you have, Skype. It's a good time to do that. I honestly don't think a lot of agents are thinking about that. I don't think they're doing what we're doing right now. And if you did that for the next 2 months, you would have just an abundance, I believe, of listings coming up over the next few months. So just some ideas for you. Because cold calls, they transform into lukewarm contacts and blossom into warm, enduring relationships. And I really do believe that. I know it sounds a little, funky, and you think, oh, well, whatever, but it really does. I mean, if you guys, you've seen where that happens, where if you just take the time to show somebody that you care and, work on the things that are important that way, the other things just seem to fall into place. And I can tell you that I've lived by that since I got into real estate, and I've done really well. And, but most of all, I have great relationships with my past clients. They're just like, my best friends. We talk, we're on Facebook. I know what's going on in their lives. I've already called most of them on my list. Still have a lot to still call, but I've called them and checked on them to see how they're doing. Is there anything you need? And they really do appreciate that. So anyway, so that's it, you guys, for tonight anyway. So do you guys have questions for me? Is there anything that you wanted to discuss or concern?
No, I think there are other agents that are taking precautions, because I called someone today and they said, no, we have to wait. I need to speak to them and see if we can, take all the precautions we need so that you could bring in a client. So,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's good. I really do hope. I do hope that, listing agents are giving them good advice and telling them to be very careful. There are closings going on. Sherry and Lee Jordan, that just came over to my office. She worked for me. She was one of my first agents, actually, when I had opened, well, not my first agent, but a few years back. She came to work with me, and she's done very, very well. And they came over just recently because they said they wanted to work with me. And they've had 8 closings this month, and yeah, they had them set up beforehand, but they work it, full time, the 2 of them. So of course they're just constantly working it. But she's put a couple houses under contract in the past few days, and she's got a couple listings coming up. She's just keeping them informed and telling them their options, and so I think she's putting them at ease.
Yeah. Okay.
Anything else?
I've been taking a lot of notes, so that's good. And then I like to have that list, like you said, if you could just be able to send that out, that'd be good.
Yeah. It's kind of long. So what I'll do is I'll send you the handout portion of it so that you have it, and then go through it. And if there's certain pages of it that you go, oh, I want this one, this one, this one, if you just call me or email me and say, it has a page on there, it'll tell you what page number it is. Can you send me the full printout of page, 10, 11, 12, 13, whatever it happens to be.
Right.
I'm more than happy to do that. So.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
I try to
Yes.
keep them short and sweet. These trainings that go on for a couple hours, that's just too long. My 3-hour core course is just too long for me. I cut it down to 2 hours last night. I was like, hey, we don't get breaks. We typically would get, a 10 or 15-minute break in between almost every hour. So I'm like, we're getting done at like 20 after. We're just giving ourselves an hour. So,
You'll
yeah,
send
I
the
will-
stuff to us too, right?
what's that?
You'll send the stuff to us as well, right?
From this?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. I will send it to both of you guys right now. As soon as we hang up, I will, I'll just send it over to both of you guys. What?
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I've taken a lot of notes as well.
Good. So, you know what? Tell me what, Jeff and Heather, what is your email address?
It is Jex, so Jex,
Okay.
and then realestate@gmail.com.
Okay. And then Anna, I have yours, I think, because you've taken a couple other classes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I have.
Okay. And then I will let your office know that you guys attended so you can get your little tickets in the little raffle.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Mhm.
All right, you guys. Well, have a great evening and have a good weekend. I know that it's Easter and I don't get to have anything with my grandbabies. That really kind of bums me out.
Yeah, there's a lot of people going through a lot of changes, but hey, we got to do the best we can, right?
I know, right? So,
Mhm.
all right. Well, you guys have a nice evening, good weekend, and stay
Okay,
safe.
You too. You
Okay.
too.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.